Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Raiders Arena here at Northwest Florida State College, the Princeton of the Panhandle, if you will. Anyway, as you know, this is the Emerald Coast Classic. Purdue just beat VCU 59-56. I appreciate you all being with us tonight for our wrap video from this game. It will be quick because the next game starts in like 4 hours. By now, I know you all have to go to bed. Hopefully the acid you used to wash out your eyes after the first 10 minutes of this game has subsided, and you can see me, you can hear me, and we'll have some good post-game basketball discussions here. One-sided, obviously. Again, 59-56, Purdue over 20th ranked VCU, or as some of you may know them, Virginia Commonwealth. A couple things to talk about here real quick. Obviously some real significance in this game for Purdue in the sense that Purdue found a way to win. And I thought prior to this game, Purdue just didn't look like a team that knew how to win yet. And I do think that's a real thing. A wise man once said, you've got to lose to know how to win. And, I thought last year was the epitome of that. Purdue took some lumps in non-conference, obviously ended up being a pretty good team when all was said and done. This year, obviously, Texas and Marquette both went sideways on Purdue for one reason or another. Sorry, I'm trying to get my phone out of my pocket, or my pocket out of my phone, whichever. It's really late at night. Purdue found a way to win. Looked like sort of a growth moment, so to speak, because this was a hideous, horrible basketball game, and Purdue won ugly by every conceivable definition of the term winning ugly. But in success comes concern, because when you win ugly, that means you were part of the ugliness. And I think while Purdue won, this is a classic example of what coaches talk about, where you'd like to have growth moments in winning as opposed to having to lose to get those lessons, to get whatever benefits might come from it. Purdue's got to get more from its big men. Purdue's got to get the ball. I understand it's difficult against VCU because of the pressure they apply, but Purdue's got to get the ball to Matt Harms more than they did. Purdue's got to get the ball to Travion Williams more than they did. He was Purdue's offensive footing in the first half. That being said, every time VCU gave up a bucket to Travion Williams, every time he was in the game, they went after him from a defensive perspective, and that's not a new thing. And I think, Purdue needs him on the floor more, but that's not about his conditioning. That's not about his ability to stay out of foul trouble. That's about his ability to, be effective at both ends of the floor. I'm not singling him out because obviously there was a lot of ugliness to go around in this game, but clearly VCU, went after Travion Williams, in part because its best player, one of its best players, happened to be going head-to-head with Travion Williams, so that's a big part of it. But it did seem like they saw an opportunity there, and again, it's not the first time that that's happened. Purdue is a much different defensive team with Matt Harms on the floor. When I say much different, I mean much more effective, much better. If Purdue could take both of them and meld them into one player, they'd really be onto something here. But as of now, they obviously have two really good centers whose strengths are very different. I think Travion Williams might be the slightly better offensive player than Matt Harms, but I think the gap there is pretty narrow. Matt Harms is far and away Purdue's best, not just best defensive center. I think he's Purdue's best defensive player. He's their most influential defensive player. And I say that acknowledging the fact that Purdue has one of the best perimeter defenders in college basketball as well. I just think Matt Harms is an elite defensive player with all that goes into defense, not just positional defense, not just shot blocking, just defender, period. And Purdue needs him on the floor more. And they need Travion Williams on the floor more. So how you solve this, I don't know, but the easiest solution would be for Travion Williams to get to the point where he plays both ends of the floor equally effectively, stays out of foul trouble, etc. And that's then a real good problem to have. I think the foul line almost cost Purdue this game again. They were off to a good start. I think they were 9 of 10, and they end up 19 of 29. So you can do the math on that. I think Travion Williams, not to pick on him here, but I think that's becoming a real concern. He missed a pair late in the game, and he's struggled at the line this season. Nogel Eastern obviously missed a pair and didn't look real good doing it. And, if Purdue's going to see the intentional foul game again, right now they seem like they're sitting pretty for it because, Travion Williams is really struggling at the line. Nogel Eastern doesn't look like he's in the same place as he was a year ago when Belmont tried it, when Michigan State tried it, when Penn State tried it. I think it was those three teams. I just don't know if he's in a place confidence-wise to make those shots. If somebody puts him on the spot, shines the light in his eyes and says, you've got to make free throws for your team to win. I just don't know how that would go at this point because he looks like he's really struggling. And that's, obviously a concern. I think from an offensive perspective, Purdue just needs to figure out how to score. I think, this was always going to be kind of a work in progress here for Purdue offensively, but I think it's kind of taken a while. And I know VCU is a different deal from a defensive perspective. Makes it really hard to get into your offense, makes it really hard to pass and catch. But Purdue beat it a bunch of times, and for whatever reason, they get the ball to the rim. And again, just like Marquette, just like a couple other instances this season, they really struggle to finish at the basket against, in some cases, no one. I think Purdue has had more clear path baskets taken away or clear path baskets missed probably than I've ever seen over a 6-game span to start a season. I've not really logged that or anything like that. I'm only generalizing, so I'm making an assumption there. I don't have the data to back that up, but I'm pretty sure that this is a bit of an outlier in terms of the number of misses at the rim, uncontested, and clear path baskets where a defender has recovered and batted a ball away or blocked a shot or whatever it may be. Point is, when you're laboring offensively a little bit and you generate good offense, you generate a high percentage opportunity, you've got to make it. And right now, Purdue has been very inconsistent in that area. I think the clear path was a real difference in this game because Purdue misses 3 layups in the first half. They turn the ball over for 3 dunks or layups or whatever it was for VCU, and that's a 12-point swing right there. And that might have been the difference in the game had things turned out a little bit differently. Purdue's just got to make the plays that are there to be made and not make plays for other people. Obviously, they've not been egregiously bad in giving up dunks and layups off their own turnovers to this point, but tonight, and obviously VCU had a lot to do with it, but Purdue's just got to make its layups, make its dunks, make its free throws, etc., and that would take a little bit of the burden off some of the growing pains that are occurring with this team offensively. A real positive here. Purdue is doing some really good things from a defensive perspective, even when they've lost this season. The only real stretch where you didn't think they were good enough defensively was the end of the Texas game, where I thought Matt Coleman just beat okay defense with great offensive play. But Purdue's been a pretty solid defensive team here. And that's obviously a very positive sign. That's what you kind of hope for, that the defense with Nogel Eastern and Matt Harms would kind of buoy you, B-U-O-Y, since we're on the sea here. I figured I would use nautical terms. Gulf of Mexico. What was I trying to say here? The hope early on was that your defense with Nogel Eastern and Matt Harms buoying you would kind of carry you along early on while the offense kind of figured things out. And that's at least been partially true. Purdue's been pretty good here. I think the last 2 non-conference opponents, Chicago State, they obviously aren't very good. Jacksonville State, obviously another low major, didn't even score 50. And now here's VCU, which isn't the best offensive team in college basketball either, but they don't get to 60. So when you can win a game with only 59 points, you've done something very positive on defense. Purdue is doing some really positive things defensively, and I think might get to the point here where that might have to be its best bet. Defense and rebounding might have to be their best bet. So if you don't like winning ugly, maybe go watch somebody else this year, because that might have to be Purdue's blueprint. for all we know. I do think Purdue has some decent pieces offensively. I think the process is very much ongoing. They're figuring things out, how to play, how to score, who to go to in certain situations, so on and so forth. But the offensive execution just has to be better. And when it's good, they've got to cash it in. They've got to make their layups. They've got to make their dunks, obviously. Tomorrow, it's got to be as good as it's been, because if you thought VCU, applied pressure, I watched Florida State play Tennessee, and I was exhausted just watching it because those guys defend. Man, they defend. They send guys in waves, and they just exhaust everything they have over 2-3 minutes of game time, and they just keep coming. And for as difficult as it was for Purdue to pass and catch at times against VCU, it's going to be much different, or much more the same, if not a whole other level tomorrow against Florida State, because those are grown-ass men, and they are playing their what's off, and they are pressuring every pass, they're challenging every catch, and they are trying to push people around. It is going to be a colossal challenge for Purdue tomorrow. But the good news for Purdue is it gets the opportunity to take on that challenge, because it's not in the loser's bracket, it's in the winner's bracket. Because Purdue has its first quality win of the season. And I think this will go down as a quality win, because I think VCU will go on to have a really good season in their league. I don't know if they'll be a top 25 type of team all year long, but this is a good win for Purdue. The sort of win they didn't get at all last year, remember. They didn't get one of these things. They lost every game they played to anybody who mattered in non-conference play. So there you go. Purdue's got that win that it didn't have last year. We'll see if they can get another one tomorrow. That's what I got from Raiders Arena here. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night after Purdue, Florida State. I appreciate all of you taking a break from playing with your new toaster oven that you got this morning on Black Friday, and being with us for our wrap video. So thank you for watching, thank you for reading, thank you for listening, and thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And I'm going to go back to the hotel and go to bed, because you can tell I need some sleep. Have a good night, everybody. Morning, whenever you're watching this, whatever.